Hi, I'm Lisa Miller, the ABC's London Bureau Chief. It's a rite of passage for many young Australians to travel overseas, and London is a #1 destination. But for every young person living abroad, there's probably a parent at home worrying about them. Tonight's story is about Mark and Julie Wallace, who were thrust into a world no parent wants when their daughter, Sara Zelenak, was killed in a terrorist attack last year. They're speaking for the first time tonight on trying to make sense of the senseless and of their drive to create a fitting legacy for their daughter.
When I travelled when I was 23, terrorism wasn't a problem. You worried about your wallet being stolen if you went somewhere. That was your biggest issue. Well, you know, the world's in a different place today.
Police and emergency services converged on London Bridge after reports a white van had ploughed into pedestrians.
And I could just see a van coming towards me, and it immediately just hit a group of people, and it was like dominoes, you know, they just went everywhere. I thought, this is a terrorist attack.
7 innocent people dead, dozens injured in yet another terror attack in London.
It's a big city, there's millions of people there, and you know, for our little girl to be involved, it was never once a thought that we ever had. Saras was streetwise, she was capable, she could read a situation, you know, we thought she would be safe.
And then everything changed. Every sliding door that could slide slid. She was in the wrong place at the wrong time. I think losing a child is the worst grief you can have. We want to make good out of this horrific thing. She can't just die for no reason. I can't leave her like this.
Good morning, sir.
I'm George Brandis.
How are you?
I'm well. It's a great pleasure and privilege to meet you.
Thank you.
Yeah, so Sara was actually here, so we understand that she went downstairs and then she was coming
Right
back
here.
up.
Right.
We've got a piece of the concrete at home. We've got a piece of that at home in a vase. Packed up, yeah?
It's a spiritual thing to take something from the place.
And we were going to meet her in Paris. Every single time I spoke to her, Mum, meet you in Paris. So we're going to meet her in Paris on the 30th of June, a year to the day when we're meant to meet her.
All right, we better get going.
And we're going to ride to the Eiffel Tower from Borough Markets where the death took place.
It seems appropriate we start from the point where she was in life the last time.
So we're carrying a letter of hope which we wrote in Australia. We've brought it all the way to London and we'll present it to France when we get there.
We don't want people to feel our pain anymore. We want love to win over hate.
Next thing you know, you're off.
We want to create a charity that can give back to people who have suffered, you know, traumatic grief. If I wasn't doing this, I'd be an angry man that, you know, probably would not want to be a positive member of society.
Such a hill!
We want to create something big that everyone remembers Sara Zelenak.
We live in the Redlands. And in the Redlands, its nickname is the Deadlands. Nothing happens here. You can't even get a meal on a Saturday night after 8 o'clock.
It's a great place to grow up. Everyone with boats lived on the bay and would go out on the weekends and everything. And Sara used to always talk about, oh, I'm going out on the boat with Dad this weekend.
I met Mark when Sara was a baby. We got together and he became her dad. She was probably just a little mini-me. She was very athletic, loved her basketball. She loved her friends, probably a little bit of a tomboy in a lot of ways, not particularly into the academic things. A lot of common sense, practical, that sort of kid.
After school, I don't think Saras really had that tangible thing that she really, really wanted to do. And then an opportunity came up within Mark's team in the drilling team, much to Julie's dismay.
She was my #1 crane operator. She was lifting loads above my head and it was quite stressful. Anything could go wrong in the situation. And Saras was my rock. You know, I couldn't get too angry or abusive when I've got Saras around.
She loved hanging out with the boys, but she loved climbing up with the girls as well.
Sara really wanted to go travelling. She was really excited to get out of the Deadlands, to get out of the Redlands and to have fun.
Sara's 21st was in November of 16, but then Julie's birthday, her 50th, so a big one, was the following February. So Saras waited for, you know, Mum to have her 50th and then she was ready to go.
Her little brother and myself took her to the airport and we set her off and go down the escalator and the last wave, and I cried and Sara had the biggest, cheesiest smile. She was just so excited.
I was living in southwest London and she arrived straight to my house from a taxi, pulled up, all crazy, all flustered. And we went for a roast, my favourite bar. She already had a family that she was going to stay with as a live-in nanny.
And we'd sometimes to and fro, a little conversation. She was enjoying it. She'd met different nannies as well, and they would go out. She seemed to be very happy.
She really came out of her shell when she was in England and Europe. Her not being at home was just like, oh, it was, you know, just, we talk every day, which was great.
And the city is there.
Mark and Julie were really missing Saras, and they were planning a trip to meet up with her in Paris in June.
We were so excited, just counting down the days to see her, and so was she.
Last summer, it was a very kind of strange atmosphere in London. In March, there was the Westminster terrorist attack. That was the first kind of attack that had happened in about 12 years in the UK. So it completely took everybody by surprise.
A man drove his car into pedestrians on Westminster Bridge.
Sara was actually there the day before that attack. And I thought, oh, Saras, you know, you were only there the day before, be careful.
About 2 or 3 months later, there was an attack in Manchester.
You're following a concert by pop singer Ariana Grande there.
The threat level remains at severe. That means that a terrorist attack remains highly likely.
I sent her a couple of texts warning her and just saying stay away from crowds and things like that, and be aware that there are these wicked people in the world. And so don't worry, Nan.
On Friday the 2nd of June, I spoke to Saras and she said, Mum, 28 sleeps to go. And she WhatsApped me this beautiful photo of her, you know. She just blew me this kiss and it was so lovely, and that was the last I got to see or speak or anything to her ever again.
June the 3rd, it was a Saturday, so I was on my way to meet some friends. I remember I was about halfway over London Bridge and I was alerted to a van kind of revving its engine really loud. So I looked up and it just hit a group of people. And I remember seeing somebody fall into the river. The van then pulled away from the edge of the bridge back onto the main road and then pulled in again. And it continued to hit the next group of people. I just remember in the back of my mind being like, you need to get out of the way. I remember feeling this van go past me, and I remember just kind of looking around and then seeing it hit people behind me. You can't kind of describe being in that situation. It was just awful.
First to our breaking news this hour, and armed police have been called to an incident at the London Bridge.
So it was a Sunday morning. News was just coming on. So it was 11 o'clock or 10 o'clock over there. The attacks had just happened and it was still just chaos. I don't think they really had any idea of what the situation was. Something just skipped a beat with me. I just went, oh gosh, Saras is in London. I need to contact Julie.
She said, hey Jules, have you seen the news? Oh, there was another terrorist attack in London. Have you spoke to Saras? I said, no, not yet, because it's night. She'll be asleep or whatever. I speak to her at 5 or 6 o'clock at night. And then I rang her and no answer. And I didn't think much of it. I just thought she's asleep or out.
London's famous landmark became a scene of chaos.
I was woken up to a call from Sarah's host family saying, have you seen her? Have you heard from her? And they said, well, she hasn't come home. And we decided to call the hotline to report her as missing.
The au pair family rang me and said, oh, Sarah hasn't come home. She said she was coming home. I thought that's odd, because Sarah's not one, she would never just go home with someone else or anything strange like that. She was always where she was meant to be.
We learned that she was in London Bridge or in that precinct for dinner.
Good evening. The news from London continues to get worse by the hour. We have just learnt that there are 2 unnamed Australians in hospital.
I was contacting each of the hospitals to find out whether, there was a Sara Zelenak there.
One of these 2 other Australians that we know about is Sara Zelenak.
The Brisbane Terrace Police came over and said, she's missing, we don't have any information.
28-year-old South Australian nurse Kirsty Bowden died after she was stabbed in the chest.
British police are still trying to piece together what happened, and so is the family of missing 21-year-old Sara Zelenak.
And then all of a sudden there's ABC, Channel 10, 9, 7, all out the front of my house on the fence, sitting there. And my phone is going off. Have you ever lost a child? You're in a supermarket and you've lost your baby or your toddler for a minute. How did you feel when that happened? No. So it was like that for days, that feeling of you can't find her.
And then Scotland Yard had arrived at the host family's home and the mum had called Julie to say that they were requesting to come in and retrieve some DNA samples from Sara's room.
There are grave fears now that 22-year-old Sara Zelenak is among those killed.
If they've got grave concerns, they're kind of telling you they know they're dead, but they feel, for whatever reason, whether it's restrictions put on them by Scotland Yard, which was one of the reasons given to us in this case, they just can't say the words. People were saying, please help find my friend Sara. But we knew that she was dead. It felt fraudulent sometimes to be writing those stories, almost giving hope to people when we knew there wasn't hope.
We had a knock on the door after midnight and it was the federal police. And we were advised to travel. As parents, you would never think the worst, so we had hope. As we were landing, Jules was able to get service on her phone.
I got this FaceTime from my eldest son. He said, Mum, the DNA results have proven Sara's dead. I said, Sara's dead? And oh my God, I couldn't breathe. I couldn't do anything. it was real and the whole world was told before us.
The first person we met when we got off the plane was Jim Galvin. He was they call it Flo, which is a family liaison officer of the Metropolitan Police.
When you're deployed to a family initially, you don't know what to expect. It never gets any easier. It's a tough job. The trauma Julie had gone through, I can't begin to imagine. But there was a strength to her as well. Mark, just a nice guy, immediately warmed towards him. I took them to meet Sara's host family. Julie's mum, Heather, was also present.
The parents were lovely and showed us her room, and I saw her bed. I laid on her bed and put my head on her pillow, and I could just feel her, I suppose. I straightened up her pyjamas and put them under her pillow. And
the host family told us that Sara, she was meant to work, looking after her two little boys, and then at the last minute the grandmother said, "Don't worry, Saras, you can have the night off." She met friends, she was going to go to Soho. They, at the last minute, decided to go to Borough markets.
I now know that after the three attackers crashed the vehicle, they then got out armed with knives and they just started stabbing people.
these men had knives attached to their hands, and they thought she was first or one of the early ones. If I think of it now, it gives me shivers of what they did. So, no, that was horrific. Julie wanted to see where it had happened. Jim took us and we went up some stairs and he stood in a spot and he said, "This is where we found her."
So she walked out into this attack and she's gone. They killed her.
Police shoot and kill 3 suspects just 8 minutes after the first emergency call.
Do you ever think about the terrorists?
Me personally, I'm glad that they were killed. I don't want to have to go to court and see them sitting there. But I don't want to feel bitter and angry because that's the problem. And these type of people want to create anger and rage and they want you to hate everyone. No, I'm not going to, because then they've won.
The charity idea came up pretty early on. Mark didn't want Zara to have died in vain. They wanted to ensure Zara had a legacy. I just took it with a pinch of salt because, you know, they're grieving, and if it provides comfort for them, I'm happy to talk to them about it. But that was it, really. Then they returned to Australia.
And then brought her home. The love and support from this community was just amazing.
7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2.
I went back to work in 7 weeks and just got on with it.
1 and change. Well done.
Well, I had to. We're both self-employed.
There were days where I wouldn't want to get out of bed. I'd worked with Saras, and to put on a pair of work boots and know that Saras wasn't coming, although she'd been away, that's all I could remember, you know, going to work with Saras.
Crucifix straight out to the side.
Grief is tough.
Everyone's favourite.
I did the one counselling thing, which was all nice and stuff, but talking to a counsellor who hasn't actually had that happen to them, I didn't feel better from doing that. I just started trying different therapies and stuff.
Okay, other way.
So we've done meditation, kinesiology, Reiki, we've done yoga, which I'm finding is helping. So I thought, well, if this happens to help me a bit, I hope I might help someone else.
Noosa North Shore.
It was probably a few months after Sara had died that the idea of Saras Sanctuary flourished into helping victims of trauma because of the trauma that they'd gone through themselves and the services that aren't really readily available, and to have them all in one place would be really nice.
So we're opening this Saras Sanctuary, and that's a not-for-profit trauma healing retreat for people that have suffered extreme grief. It's so beautiful here because you're just listening to the ocean, seeing the ocean for a healing retreat. That's what you want.
We've always thought that the sanctuary would accommodate, say, 20 or 30 people at a time.
So they come in for 7 days. They might want to do meditation. They might want to do yoga. I want to manage the program. I would like to be there to help people because I know how they feel and I know I can help people.
They've got some very grand plans for the charity. There's a relatively bureaucratic process to go through. There's a lot of people that are competing for the same money. They know that there's a lot of hard work ahead.
Financially, we're not in a position to spend, crazy amounts of money on it.
And then the only other thing to sign is just this notice to the ATO to confirm that you're the public officer for the charity.
So we've had some great supporters in legal advice. We've got 2 web designers, graphic designer who's created our logo free of charge. And we've sold the boat and we'll put that money towards, building the charity.
This is the final company register, so that'll just need to be kept at the registered office and obviously updated as we go along. We can get moving with the big plans you've got, so...
perfect. Thank you so much.
They see the need as being a global need for the type of support that they want the charity to provide. So I think over time, that they would love for this charity to expand into as many jurisdictions as they can manage.
Mark contacted me out of the blue and asked if I would assist with the charity idea. I was, absolutely, yeah, but I was a police officer, so where I fit in, I don't know. And it came to me, a bike ride. Mark and Julie are both quite fit people. They're quite outdoorish, like most Australians are. Why not get on bikes from London Bridge to the Eiffel Tower? And let's meet there. 1 year to the day, you should have met Zara. So I pitched the idea to Mark. He said, what a great idea.
"49 days till we leave London Bridge, and this is our second training session, so we've been pretty busy. Meet You in Paris is what we're calling the event. We're doing it initially to see that it can be done. Yeah, we did buy new seats because we got saddle sore the first time. Then we're going to create it as an annual event that Saras Sanctuary will use as an ongoing fundraiser.
In June, we left for London. Surreal that we've actually left. We've been talking about it for ages and we actually left London riding a bloody bike to France.
Tour de France.
200 years ago. We had some tough days, long riding. And Mark and Julie constantly together throughout the ride. Mark didn't leave Julie's side once.
I had a little stack. I nearly hit a car. It fell off. I was ready to throw my bike in the bin that day. Sara, she was with me the whole time. I could just feel her on my back riding along.
How's it going today, Jill?
Day 4. Good. We've done 10K, so early days. Come on, guys! Woo!
Cheers! Cheers!
And they did it the hard way. They could have just done it like anyone else and flown into Paris, but they wanted to make a statement, make what happened have some meaning, and I think this is their way to do that.
We got into Paris. We knew we were going to Australia House. We knew that there were people to greet us, knowing that we're going to meet our Governor-General.
Awesome people.
To our surprise, there were over 50 people standing
Waving the
on the river,
flags.
waving the Australian flags, and we were met by some incredible people. So.
I know, so supportive, and they just stand there waving. Oh, is that for us?
It was pretty cool.
It was really cool.
G'day. Fantastic.
Today, Sara Zelenak will be remembered. Today, of course, the parents will be raising awareness and support for people like them.
Hey, Dad.
It's the loved ones who are inevitably also victims.
Bonjour.
My daughter was killed in the Bataclan.
Oh.
I met a lovely French lady that had lost her daughter in 2015 attack over there.
I know.
We need to be together, to be more strong.
Yes, yeah, we have to help people.
Yes.
I lost, my daughter passed away in Bataclan with her boyfriend, and it's very important for me to be with parents who are in the same situation. And each day, it's very hard for us.
Bonjour. A letter to my angel daughter. I hope for future that there is no mother that will ever feel what I have felt. That violence and terror across the world will end. I hope that we will no longer live in fear and love will win over hate.
Saras, I think she'd be very proud of them, actually. I think she'd think it's amazing that they are not focusing on who did it and why. They're just focusing on how we move on and keep her memory attached to something positive.
So it works on me, then it's likely it'll work on someone else.
Victims of terrorism.
Even after tragic circumstances with SARS, we'll still encourage her brother to travel because it's something that you can't think that's going to happen to everyone.
In like some things work a little bit, and this you feel a little bit better.
Putting their energy into SARS Sanctuary, I think it's a really good thing. They will heal in their own time. And some people might see that as too soon, but I think it's just the way they are.
Thanks,
When we finally got to the Eiffel Tower, it was a relief that we made it there. We wanted to have that journey that we were meant to have with her.
And it did happen. It was fantastic, to feel her there with us.
We've had a hell of a journey with each other.
I can't believe it, we made it, eh?
I'm here because I believe what Mark and Julie are doing is truly remarkable.
You only got it done, Jules.
There's some people you bond with and some people you don't. We bonded. Because I love them. They're great people.
I'm hoping that now that they've been to Paris and they've done what their mission was to do, I'm hoping now that Julie does have the time to stop a little bit. But if it's not just something that they're going to do and walk away from, this will be something that will shape the rest of their life, and they will be involved 100% forever.